No, it's lovely. Hi everyone. So today for Open Ad with Basil, I'm joined by an unbelievable athlete, an unbelievable singer. I'm blinded, sorry, by the sun, and a teacher, and also a mental health nurse and advocate, I suppose, coach. So a phenomenal human being to have on, someone that has a diary as full as mine, so getting to meet each other has been next to impossible, but we've eventually got here and we're down in the beautiful Cahore. So I'd like to introduce you all to Shelly Atkins first.
Hi everybody, thanks a million for having me on, Basil.
So Shelly, I've given a snippet of an unbelievable journey so far, right? But would you mind introducing yourself to some of the people that don't know who you are, where you're from, or anything like that?
Yep. Hi everybody. So as Basil said, my name is Shelly. I'm a local girl. Grew up on the outskirts in the country of Ballycanoe, near Ballycanoe. I presently now live out in the Rock in Kylenearn, where it's my second home. I began my athletic life at 6 years old. I was a gymnast my whole life. I was a few times actual All-Ireland tumbling gymnast champion.
Deadly.
And that's where I learned the love of sports. Come from a family of three very strong athletic brothers and parents both champions in what they did as well, swimming, cross-country running. So for me, being an athlete was always part of my makeup. It was part of who I was. And I never really lost that.
Was ingrained in all of you from a young age.
Ingrained. We were never home. We lived 3 kilometres, my friends laugh at this one, we lived 3 kilometres from any shop. We live in the country. So if we ever wanted something from the shop,
Had to run.
my dad would say, on you run to the shop. And we would. We'd run to the shop, we'd get what we wanted and we'd run back. So I suppose we had to work for it all our lives. Nothing handed to us on a silver platter.
He did give him the money to go to the shop, so don't mind the whinging story there.
Of course he did. So yeah, I suppose, you know, being an athlete from the age of 6 set me up as an adult in life as an athlete. So it didn't come hard to me to be where I am.
Yeah.
But my dedication has always remained because of I suppose my strong mindset. It doesn't come naturally. You have to work at this stuff. So that takes me to where I am as an adult. About 7 years ago, I began to train in the world of triathlons. I can give credit to my brother Martin, who got me up one day and said, let's go, we're doing a duathlon, and did really well at it. And then we both continued our journey there. And I continued on from there. So I suppose...
Now, what I would say to you just before we jump on, triathlons and duathlons, like that's... And where you're going to end up at the end of this conversation is a massive, but your mental strength and not even, I suppose, that foundation that your parents put in, that will to continue, that will to drive, that will to keep going from sport. And I know for a fact I lost way more than I ever won in sport, and I'm sure you did as well. And I think that's really important because we learn something, and if you can keep continuing with something, you're building resilience and strength as well.
Yeah, and you know something really funny there? I had somebody ask me this question, and not so long ago in a school environment. A really small little thing, and my dad probably doesn't even know, he can take credit for this. I used to horse ride as a kid, got my first pony at I think about 6 or 8.
Yeah.
And I remember going down my neighbour's lane one day and the pony took off and I fell off. And I jumped up and I was about 6 or 7 years old and I was crying my eyes out, and I ran back to my daddy and he says, where are you going? I said, I'm running home. He says, you get back up on that horse. He says, you're going to have many falls in life and you don't walk away from the fall. And I remember that sticking in my brain. And my daughter's a horse rider, absolutely phenomenal horse rider. She's still at it and she's 18 and she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I remember telling her that story, and I remember her saying to me, you never walk away from the horse, you always get back up, ma'am. So I think little things that happen in your childhood,
well, it's following through as well.
It follows through. So that will bring me on to the bigger picture today that we're talking about.
Well, I would also like that. So she gave out about her poor dad making him run to the shop. Now the man has bought her a pony, right? And I'm very lucky. Both my parents are still alive, thank God. I think my father bought me and my brother a Honda 50, so I don't know. But we lived in a housing estate in Cahore, I suppose, so it's a bit different.
Well, no, I have to say now, again, it wasn't like here's a pony. It wasn't like that.
You had to
I'd
work for
made
it.
me communion. I'd saved me money. Like we really had to work for it back
Yeah.
then. And on top of that, Basil, horses weren't 20 grand back then like they are now.
True.
So let's just make that one clear.
Yeah.
But phenomenal parents. I really have phenomenal parents, and they've
well,
ingrained some incredible, you know, attributes to us in life, and instilled some brilliant principles and morals. So I do put that down to it, to my parents. And then continuing on, I suppose, as we decided to talk about the mental health journey of life, which is all about your psychological and well-being in life and how you maintain it. So I continued the triathlons, and I was really successful at it, but I worked really hard. I always have this thing in life, Basil, that some people say, oh, you're so lucky. I'm not lucky.
No.
I really work hard. So I continued on in the Irish, I think I was up on the nationals there in the Irish circuit, but I love the heat. So I started to go abroad and do some competitions. I went to Mallorca, Lanzarote, the UK, which, believe it or not, was actually hotter than Mallorca the year I qualified for my first World Championships in Swansea. And I qualified for the 70.3 Ironman in New Zealand 4 years ago. But because COVID hit, they pulled it. So the following year, I qualified again and I got Utah in America. So that was in 2022. So I went on and I competed in the World Championships in Utah in America. Totally self-funded, went out there with my husband and had an amazing trip and did phenomenally well. I think I was top 60 in the world in my age category in the 70.3, which...
So just for anyone that doesn't know what an Ironman is, can you explain what the...
So I do the 70.3 Ironman. So that's the 1.9 kilometre swim, 90k bike, and then you get off and do a 21k half marathon run off the bike.
Right.
So that's the 70.3 Ironman. So I did my first one in Utah in 2022, and then the following year I qualified again. I went over and I worked really tough, really hard, got a qualifier for Finland. So in 2023, last summer, I went out to Finland and I competed in the World Championships again. And then I went off again and I qualified again for this year's, which is New Zealand. And New Zealand and I have a little date because I'm 4 years waiting to do this race, but I had to re-qualify to do it. So I've actually effectively qualified twice for this one.
For this one?
Yeah, so I have that in December, and that's my big goal this year, December.
That's our big goal, and that's my reason for driving 20 minutes down the road, because her plan is to go swimming and get training. So there's no such thing as a free lunch with Shelly. I have talked about maybe getting in. I don't know if it's a good idea.
I'll get him in.
I don't know.
a little dip.
So, right, we both have, but we've both had journeys with our families and with our lives, and I suppose the reason why both of us are on the journey we're on to help people, hopefully help people. I suppose we can't say we're going to, but we hope we will, and I believe that these open, honest chats have helped people already, and I know they will going forward. So I know from knowing you and knowing your family, you had an awful thing that no one plans, you can't plan for, and you hope never happens.
Life-changing.
But has altered your lives in a lot of ways. But yeah, so I'm going to let you talk as openly, as short or as long or as whatever needs to be, but it's your
Thanks, Basil. So the reason why I was delighted to come and talk to Basil was a big event that happened, a life-changing event that happened for me and my family last December 5th. I have, and will continue to have from the rest of my days, an incredible nephew called Kyle, who's 30 years old last year. And unfortunately, we lost Kyle to suicide December 5th last year. It's been a really life-changing event, as I said. I don't know how other people describe it, but I describe it to friends of mine that someone came and dropped a grenade into the middle of our world, and it shattered, and every day it's building pieces back together. It'll never be the same.
No, it blows it up completely.
It's kind of unexplainable unless you've been there. And even though I will say this, Basil, even if you've been there, everyone's journey and everyone's experience it's just so different. You
Yeah.
can't actually tell anybody that you know what they're going through because it's a lonely
No,
journey.
and I just done the workshop yesterday with the kids. So trauma, like you might have been knocked down by a car,
Mm.
and I could have been hit by a bamboo,
Yeah.
right? But everyone carries trauma differently, and everyone's trauma is separate, and everyone's trauma is individual. But anyone going through trauma, regardless of whether you think is or that they shouldn't be upset, that's nothing to do with us. That's not.
No,
That's how that
it's
person.
individual.
Yeah, everything is individual.
And so why Basil and I said we'd have a lovely talk is I want to come at it from a positive point of view because I said to Basil, training for my 3rd World Championships this year, the first person I'd always call after my competitions would be Kyle. Kyle struggled with his mental health and then further went on to struggle with addiction. And combining those both is a really, really hard world to be in and to get through. And unfortunately, he didn't get through it, and we lost him. So for me, I suppose my goal in life is to always speak his name, always keep his memory alive, and tell everybody how incredible of a person he was. His favourite thing in the world to do was train. I'm sure there's people that are going to watch this and listen, and you'll know who he was. He was a phenomenal athlete. He was definitely a strong soul in this lifetime. But I said to Basil, my number one goal today is to talk about something that, believe it or not, I did a big race last weekend in Kenmare that I didn't think I could do. Again, I didn't know if I had it in me, but I just powered on through and did the Lost Sheep in Kenmare, 6-hour race, swim, cycle, run across the Kerry Mountains. And I remember feeling him with me, and I remember thinking, I'm going to train through this grief because it's what he would want. So for me, it's all about, my journey is about training through my grief. I remember saying to Basil, a few days after Kyle died, I had my 2 friends say, let's go to the mountains, which is my passion in life. I said to Basil, I couldn't open the front door. I actually couldn't open the front door. I remember making an excuse, saying, no, it's not my time, I can't go. They just turned up, and the 2 girls, they know who they are. They turned up and they said, get in the car, and we went to the mountain and we ran across the mountain. It was an emotional journey, to say the least, but that was my first step back out. It was one step in front of the other, and that's what every day is through grief.
Yeah.
So for me, this story today is about inspiring people to push through the pain. It doesn't have to be grief you're going through. It can be your mental health issues. It can literally be a breakup. It can be a trauma. It can be old scars you haven't worked through. But I just want to send a message out there. Talk about it. Get rid of the shame. Get rid of the stigma. And talk. Reach out to Basil. Reach out to somebody. You don't know if that's easier. There is help out there. September is World Suicide Prevention Month. And if we can just prevent one person by having this talk to reach out and get the help, I'll be delighted. And I did say to Basil at the beginning of this, like, I'm fortunate that I don't struggle with, I suppose you'd say, specific mental health issues. But every day is a battle in everyone's life. Everyone has struggles. You don't have to have a diagnosis. You don't have to have a doctor telling you you're unwell. Every day is a struggle. So your mental health is all about dealing with your psychological and your well-being in the present. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't be thinking on to yesterday. Like, how I get through and how I cope is I get up and think, today is Thursday. This is what I have to do today. And every day I actually post a picture now, and I make sure that it's a good picture. Now, sometimes they're not all positive, as in I tell the truth. If I'm in pain and I'm missing Kyle or missing anyone I've lost, like, I do put it up and say, you know,
That's
it's not
honesty
always a good day. But I said this, Basil and I were trying to hook up with the diaries.
Yeah.
And
which I might add was a mean task at the best time.
I know. I think I've met the male version of busyness in my world. But look, like I said, if it's training through grief. For me, this is what this walking podcast is about, and it's about sending a message that hopefully you can find the goodness in every day and reach out for help. And something I think is really important for a message, and we spoke about it briefly just back there, everyone is individual. You don't have to have I don't have a big story about my mental health issues, Basil, like we spoke about earlier, where you've had a really tough time. I don't personally have that, but I have you know, living with a family's grief. I have, you know, we've all come up across bullying incidents. And
Yeah.
I have children. I'm married with 2 children. So obviously I feel their pain. I carry their pain when they're going through stuff. Every person's grief, every person's mental health issues, every person's down days are individual and they're relative to that person. It's not a competition, Basil, of
No,
who's
no,
hurting the most.
I couldn't agree with you
And
anymore.
that's, you know, if someone says to you, I need help, the best thing you can do is just listen. Listen to them and make their issue or their problem be very relative and be very important at that moment, because that moment could save someone's life. That someone says to you, I need help. Don't turn it back and say, oh geez, me too, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
And even if you are having a bad day, it's very difficult not to put that back on somebody. But the best advice I can give, and this is coming from my mental health nursing background, is let them speak, you listen. And then, you know, identify it, analyze it, process it, and then work out a solution.
Yeah.
So that's the best bit of advice I can give in a crisis.
At the moment, the JA are even going through a process where they have the 5 pillars of well-being.
Yep.
Now, when I think of these lovely thoughts and I say, oh, I won't remember the 5 of them, right?
That's okay.
But the first one is to connect, and I think that's a really important one in the sense that today's society, and even I look at my mother, her connections are on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? And young people now, their connections are on TikTok or they're on Instagram or they're on Snapchat. And don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of spending far too much time on Instagram myself, right? I said once I retired from professional boxing that I delete all social media, but then I set up MBK, so I sort of needed to promote that or whatever. But I think the power of true connections like this, right? So me and you've talked over the phone. We sent voice notes, but I'm only actually getting a real feel for what we were on about now. Do you know what I mean? Because this is a natural a connection that's
in
healthy.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think young people now, whilst we had different struggles, like when we grew up in the early 80s, early 90s, there wasn't a massive amount of money around. Our parents had to work for everything.
Yeah.
I started work at 11, so there just wasn't money available. But our struggles were nearly healthier struggles, like falling off the horse or falling out of a tree. So I mean, now you have a young person to come in from school, they're probably getting a hard time in school, and next thing they go up to their room and you think that should be their safe space, but that's probably not. It's probably the worst place they can be.
Yeah, they're taking it home now. We were talking about this earlier, actually. Basil and I were talking about years ago, especially boys, let's be honest, in our age group. A boy, back then they had a problem. You sorted it out whatever way you sorted it out.
Now we're not endorsing fighting.
No, I didn't say fighting. You said.
Oh, I said fighting, but I am sort of endorsing fighting. But
he's a boxer. I didn't say fighting.
Look at my nose. I don't endorse fighting.
So I just said you sorted it out whatever way you sorted it out, and the next day was a new day, and that's how life was for us as kids, girls and boys. Like I don't remember having. Everyone's experienced bullying in school, if we're honest, but I don't remember having it where someone was posting a letter under my door at 10 o'clock at night because they called me a name that day. But now that's how we don't get away.
Snapchat about someone, and young people are so advanced with technology now. They're even snapping a head onto someone else's head, and it's just crazy. So I do think, like, I've my own young lad, I idolise him. He's the apple of my eye. 7 years of age, and I hope you don't see this video, son, but you won't be getting a phone till you're about 25. So, like, I just think the dangers of social media, and not only like for young, like you're a fitness fanatic, right? Young girls haven't that body image thing with, like, do you know what I mean? Oh, sorry.
No, you talk to me.
Oh, I talk.
People like to see you, Basil.
People don't like to see me. The nose, I told you about the nose. But young girls have this body shaming nearly online, and as a result, like, I remember years ago when I launched Headspace Corey.ie, I got Conor Mack actually and came in, done a brilliant talk. He's going to be a guest on this as well, but Conor talked about the dangers of social media. social media is a false word. I remember when I boxed Alan Babbage, I put up a picture, said, "Oh, I can't wait to fight." I was in the midst of a panic attack. I couldn't think of
Yeah.
anything worse.
I listened to that in
Social
your
media is false, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Whereas if you had have probably put up maybe nothing, it might not have gotten on your soul
Yeah.
as much. And, you know, but then I suppose you do things like the kids these days, and this is what we forget, because we're in our, well, I'm in my 40s.
So am I, yeah.
So I have this with my own daughter.
I loved the way she wasn't sure. Most people are very confident to say I'm in my 40s.
Well, I don't assume. So I speak about this to my own kids. I speak about it to students I teach. You know, social media, I think we, as our generation, and I'm sure your parents and all the older generation, we just don't like it because it wasn't us. It wasn't what we grew up with. But like my own kids point out sometimes, like my own child said something to me last week, "You're not always right, Mammy." And I had to think about that, because I'm not always right.
Yeah.
Because my child said, it's not all negative.
I'm fairly sure she didn't get that answer straight away now.
No, but it was, the point that they were making was like, I negatize it, because I'm like, don't be listening to this, don't be doing that, don't be looking at this, you know, like coming home. And like, I remember when my daughter was very young, and like her friends were talking about like, you know, just inappropriate stuff like plastic surgery, and they were 15. And like, she wasn't saying that, but her friends were talking about it, and they were all, "Oh wow, look at this person," and they were learning, I suppose, what we call a false perception of life. But that's what they've grown up in. So, I mean, we have to take the good and the bad. And all I try and do is, social media like this, what we're doing right now, Basil, it can be productive and positive. So I think, like everything in life, you have to take the positive, take the negative, and work with both of them. And back to the fitness side of mental health, I do believe that, and I always think about this when people say like fitness saved my life. It does save your life, but I'm going to say something now that it might be a little bit, it's not negative, it's positive.
Yeah.
You have to find inner peace. There might not be a time in your life when you can always run, you can box, you can cycle, you can swim, you can gym, but you have to be able to find an inner peace. So I think in the process of the fitness world and getting your mental health into a good place where it's stable, I would use the word stable a lot, because it'll be up and down, that's life. I think you have to find inner peace. So I think it's really important to start trying to find out who you are and what makes you happy. And as much as you use fitness as a tool, I think it's really important to try and find an area of your life. Like I listened to one of your podcasts, it's really good, and you were talking about, it might just be a walk, it might just be sitting out on a balcony with no phone, it might be switching off your phone for 1 hour a day, which is called phone hygiene. Some people, if you told them to switch the phone off for an hour a day, like, they'd actually have a panic attack. So I think you as a person, and anybody out there struggling or not struggling, try to get good practice into place for your life. Don't look at what someone else is doing. Like I'll go and do a sea dip now. I love it. Like, I come out and I feel brand new. Basil's probably thinking, lads, I may make an excuse to get away from this one. I'm not jumping in the sea.
I wore a massive big fleece, because I can honestly tell you, the idea of a sea dip is horrifying me. But I do like to challenge myself, so we'll see if it gets warmer on the way back.
See if there's a picture afterwards with a sea dip. But no, so like I said, for me coming on here with you, Basil, it was just hopefully inspiring people that whatever you're going through, like for me it's grief right now, whatever you're going through, I just hope that you can find a place in your life, that you can find something that comforts you, that sits well in your head, that makes you happy, find a little bit of peace from it. I think sometimes people say to me, I have a real, not an issue, but I have to be really careful with social media, because the level of athleticism that I'm at the moment, which is Ironman training, sometimes I don't want to post that I've done a 90k cycle or a 100k cycle with a 20k run off it, because I kind of feel it might make someone who's struggling feel, well, I'll never be able to do that. So for me, and I've always said this, I say on every interview I do, 400 metre walk. Gorey Town Park has an inner track, beautiful facility we have in Gorey. 400 metres that is, that inside little gravel track. Put on your headphones, put on some beautiful meditation music, or put on music you like, whether it's country western or whatever it is. Walk that track. The next day you go back, walk it twice. The next day you go back, walk it 3 times. The next day you go back, walk it 4 times. Again, 4 times. 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 4 don't compare yourself to anybody else, Basil.
Yeah.
Like I could say to Basil, oh Jesus, I wouldn't get in the ring and box for charity, because imagine like Basil Kennedy's watching me and what if my boxing stroke is really bad or whatever. So
Boxing strokes, so
I
there you
know,
are. That's
swimmer,
why she
that's a
shouldn't.
swimmer.
That's a swimmer, yeah.
What is it, boxing?
A punch.
There you go. So no, do you know what I mean? So
No,
straight
I
away,
do.
like
Yeah.
it's don't compare yourself to others. But like I said, whatever you can find to make you happy and to get you through your days, and take those days. I always say to people, take the down days with the good days.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think embracing the down days is important too. Do you know what I mean? So you talked about the stages of grieving before we came on camera.
yeah,
There is stages.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there's no point rushing it. We all want to feel better, but sometimes that's going to be a slower process. Everyone is individual. I know I'm 21 years grieving column,
yeah.
and well, coming up to 21 years, and
And that's a friend you lost.
yeah, but that's it's a process and it's slow, and there's days that it doesn't bother me. There's days I feel unbelievable strength from them. Then there's days that I'd absolutely be fucking
Angry.
frustrated, upset, sad. So like I think MJ asked me a couple of weeks ago, does this really upset you? That, and it does, but I think holding his memory is really important to me as well. Like, and the reason for MBK, I would hope Bulger is very proud, because that's probably the reason I set that up, and I think he's helping loads of people as a result of it. But back to anybody grieving, if you're looking up, oh, I need to do something, do it when you're ready, do it when you're able, do it at your pace, start small and build into it, like, you know what I mean?
And we don't all have good days. I mean, I said this to you off camera. Yesterday was 2 days ago was the main day for World Prevention Against Suicide. I had an awful day. There's no way me and you could have met on Tuesday. I was in an awful state.
Yeah.
I was really upset. I thought, sure, what's good is that to me now? I've lost my nephew. And then I thought, but there's so many people out there that we can help.
I won't lie to you, it was a shite day for me, and I, because of setting up MBK and because of this up and at it with Basil, right, I sort of felt nearly obliged to post something. But that, yeah, it was the day I'd rather thrown the duvet over my head and not do anything. But
and identifying triggers is really important for people. People asked me, I did an interview with the lovely Alan Corcoran there back in early February, and it was only and it was only 8 weeks after we'd lost my nephew, and I said on the radio, if anyone ever needs any help or needs just to talk or just a little bit of advice, just ring and I can give you some numbers, I can help you. And off the back of that, I've been working with 3 people who said they'd never go to an establishment, they'd never go to an official establishment, but when they heard what I was talking about and what we'd been through as a family and what my nephew had endured and struggled with, they just said it sounded so raw and so real. And I said to you that I was working with 3 people since then, just privately. No one will ever know who they are. No one will ever know their journey, their stories. Nobody will ever know that. But 2 of them are doing phenomenally well. One of them's doing really well, but still struggles and still slips and rings me, and I might not hear for a month and then gets back again. So I think even the power of any interview, anything that we can do, even like this, walking along the beautiful Cahore. I mean, I don't know if you can have a look at that there, Basil. Like, I walk this all the time. I walk the beaches. It's where I take inspiration from. When I'm having a bad day or a down day, I literally just go to the sea.
Yeah.
The sea has amazing minerals and principles and vitamins, healing ones actually, that you'll never get from a bottle or you'll never get from a packet. So I think sea dipping is really good for the mind. That's why I'm going to get Basil to jump in the sea after this, maybe. It is good for you because it's the cold shock therapy. It opens up everything, serotonin, the dopamine. It just opens up the mind and it just shocks the body into a different status. But again, just reach out. It's really hard to get that message across that there is help there.
There is, but I think
it doesn't have to be a professional.
No, this is it. And there's a bravery in asking for help. But for any friends here, and I'm lucky that I know Shelly is hugely popular, so I know this is going to reach a massive amount of people, and that's what we want. But for any young person that's really worried about a friend, or not really worried, or just concerned even, I would say to you, don't be afraid to ask the question. I spoke to the workshop I done yesterday and for the last 2 days, and I was speaking to the kids. And so if you were in really bad form and I come up and I say to you, Shelly, is everything all right? Are you feeling okay? And you turn around and you say to me, Basil, I'm just bollocks tired.
Yeah,
What harm have I done?
nothing.
Right? But if I come up to you and I say, Shelly, you don't seem yourself, is everything all right? You turn around and say to me that you're having suicidal thoughts.
Yeah,
Me asking that question could save your life.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I
It's
think
one
that's
question.
the most powerful
Yeah,
thing we can say. Like, I do a lot of charity work for Talk to Tom, and they run a course, QPR training. I'm going to give you the snapshot of the course really quickly, but QPR,
turn
it's
that on me.
mental health.
Turn it on you.
So I don't want to turn on me. It's mental health first aid, and basically what QPR stands for is question, persuade, and refer. So if you're worried about somebody,
Question them.
ask them the question. Don't be afraid to, and I will say this to you, it's an extremely hard question to ask, because you'll have a knot in your belly asking it. But ask that question, then persuade them things are going to be better. But then, most importantly, refer that on to someone. Don't shoulder that yourself. Make sure you talk to their parent or a friend, or make somebody aware of it, and refer that answer on, because I promise you, those three little things can save someone's life. That's how important that is for me, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's really good advice there. And something else as well that someone asked me, I would work with people privately as well who are struggling with fitness. Like say someone who never been to a gym, never ran, never walked, just kind of maybe feeling sluggish, might not be in a good place either.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people step away or haven't exercised in their life, bringing it back in can make massive changes to their mental health. It can make them just be really happy again. They didn't realize what they were missing, etc. So the one tip I give on that to people is start small. Like I just said, go to the park and do 400-meter walk, do 200-meter walk. And then another thing that I think, I'm sure you'll agree with this, because with mine and your level of athleticism.
Now,
Like I don't.
I'm not there now anymore. I'm
He is.
retired for the last year and a
Well,
half.
okay, you know where
Yeah.
you have been on your journey.
Now she's been kinder. Now she's telling me I have been there.
Well, you just said he's not there anymore. What I'm saying is that I think what's really important is accountability.
Yeah.
So I don't. I'm a coach, a tri coach as well.
I know where you're going with it. I love it.
You need a coach. You need a coach, and you need to be accountable. And it doesn't have to be a coach. I was saying my whole kind of thing lately is training through grief to try and get to this World Championships and try and do the best World Championships I've done. This is my third one, and I'm going to nail this one, because I'm going to do this World Championships for my nephew, who will never do one with me, and I promised him we'd always do one together. So he will race with me for the rest of my days. He will race with me, because he raced with me last Saturday as well. But what I would say to you is accountability, Basil. If you don't have accountability in every aspect of life, and that's even getting a counsellor to talk through and setting that call up on Wednesdays that you have to speak to someone about how bad you're feeling or how good you're feeling. A coach, a fitness coach, go to a good gym class. If you hate the gym, go to a dance class. If you hate dance, go to a swimming class. So I think accountability is what can save people. I've worked with people and they've said, having to be here, having to show up, having to turn up is what saved me. And having a good coach, like I know my coach, my tri coach this year and last year, I had a really honest talk with him in January, and I said to him, I have the World Championships in December. I'm not able to be accountable to you for I don't know how long. And he said, I will sit and I will wait. And he watched me. He's an incredible coach, a really lovely guy. And he said, I'll watch you and I'll wait for you. And when you're ready, you pick up the phone. And it wasn't until March. Now, I would have been 3 months in normally in tri training from January. And I didn't didn't start really getting back on plan till April, which is a late season for me. But he watched me and he sat back with patience, and I really am grateful, and he probably doesn't even know that, but I'm really grateful for that, because he knew
name your coach.
James Hoare, fantastic coach. He's up in the news.
Well done, fair play to you.
He sat back and he just sat back and he watched me. And I do have some other really amazing people in my life, some running friends who have, like I said, knocked on my door and they've got me out. And like, especially my original coach, Tom Hogan and Dina.
I know
Everyone knows
about
Tom and
him,
Dina. They're really close friends of mine. And through all of this, like, they're massive High Rocks coaches now. But there's like, you know, I'd still check in with Tom and Dina and I would meet. But to have people that you can surround yourself with who are strong, but they have patience and empathy.
Yeah.
So for me, as a coach, I know one thing I bring to the board is empathy, because as a coach, you are a counsellor. You are a counsellor. So I think accountability is something that I'm going to tell you. If you are struggling, go and be accountable to somebody for what's going on in your head.
And that's in any shape of life. That doesn't have to be running triathlons or
anything.
Any shape of life. I always found, and I only took it on when I was boxing, I suppose, and only when I probably got to the higher part of it, when things were going really well. But I started journaling.
I journal.
Every day I was able to write down what I done. I was writing down my runs, my times, right? And it was amazing, because when my first loss, I remember being down in the dumps after it, obviously, but I knew there was reasons for it. And I went back to my diary, and I was able to say that, but you know what, the reasons were out of your control, because your runs were faster, and it was an amazing way of putting me at ease. So keeps me accountable. I found that when I had it raw out, I couldn't write in rest day. Do you know what I mean?
To be accountable.
I had to have some. So
and you know, it's funny, because speaking of like training for triathlons, like I would do 6 days and I'd have one rest day a week. But like, just to put into perspective, like, from going from not running and not training, say in January, as I called, I was frozen. My life was frozen. I can't remember some days, to be honest with you. But I got up and we got out the door and we did it, and I had 2 kids watching me and I had to get up and do it. And we all have gone through that in my family. And it's a personal journey. I can't speak for anyone else, and I can't speak for anyone. I can only be there for my family. But something that's really important for journaling, and some people laugh at you when you journal, but the 3 people I worked with, all men by the way, they are journaling now, and they're like, we have to hide it. And I'm like, don't hide it, be proud of it. So how I journal, I don't know, because some people will say, what's this journaling thing? How I journal is, I have a heading. So I have 3 headings. So when I sit down normally at night time for 10 minutes, I don't do it every night. I do it on the nights when I want to do it. I don't push myself to journal. I have the good, the bad and the ugly. So
that was the name of my last episode.
The good, the bad and the ugly. So I put a little heading at the top, good. So today was a good day. Now today as a good day at the moment doesn't mean I didn't cry my heart out. I was driving yesterday and I had to pull my car in. I was crying that hard. A song came on the radio and that was it.
Songs can be triggers. I know that massive.
Came on the radio and I just went, I can't do this. I can't drive. So I pulled in. I literally sat there. I let myself cry and I drove on again. And I was actually going to my mum and dad's house. And then when I got there, I walked in and burst out crying. So look, it's just one of those days. And last night, I actually put down a good day. Even though I cried my eyes out, I put down a good day because I had to feel that pain. I had to go through it. It wasn't a bad day because I cried. And I hadn't cried I hadn't cried since the day before, to be honest. So, because it was World Prevention Suicide Day. So, I don't know, like, it's really hard. Like, I don't call myself an expert, Basil. I just call myself an advocate, because I'm not God. Like, I can't fix everyone. I can just, I think if you show up and you help and you try, like when we decided to do this, I was like, honestly, 100%, I promise, but it'll be hard to get me, which was true. And you're the same. Like we battled back and forward, but I think it's meant to happen when it's meant to happen. As I call it, the stars align when they're meant to align. So I kind of hope we can really help somebody with our chat.
Well, I've no doubt we will, right? But I think, so I like to finish with 2 questions, right?
Okay.
So I believe it or not, I was doing this interview. I know she talked for a massive amount of time, right? But no, on a serious note, thanks so much. And I know everything you've said is brilliant, because I think I keep badgering on about young people, which is not fair, right? But I think we don't talk enough about the world has lost a lot of kindness, right? And empathy, that's a massive thing.
Empathy.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think just having everybody is going through this, or we're all going through it differently. And I'm a big cartoon fan. I know by my face you'll understand that. So, but Kung Fu Panda, I love when they say, like, what he says to him, the past is in the past, it's there for a reason. The future is unknown, so we don't know what's ahead of us. But today is the present. That's why it's called the present. So treat today as a gift and make it as the best day you can. And days when you wake up and feel shy, that's just getting through that day. Do you know, that's the best you can do on that day. So be proud of yourself for it. But anyway, back to this question. It's a massive one. Shelly, what would you say to a 12-year-old you now? What advice would you give them going forward?
For a 12-year-old,
Yeah.
have they got a phone?
No, you, a 12-year-old
Oh, me,
you.
a 12-year-old me. I thought I said to a 12-year-old I'm talking
No.
to. So what advice would I give to a 12-year-old?
No, to you, to 12-year-old Shelly Atkins, when you were growing up, what advice would you give to keep her safe, to get her going through everything?
Stay in sports.
Stay in sports.
Stay in sports. And it's not about being the best, it's about showing up and dedicating yourself. As I said to you earlier, there's some weeks I put in 15 to 18 hours a week and I work and I'm a mum and I have a house and I have a husband and dogs. But I stayed in sports my whole life, and I don't mean it like people kind of go, that's okay, but what if a child's not sporty? And there are children, my own son's friends, some of them aren't sporty. So we go to the beach and we bring a ball, and I guarantee if a child says they're not sporty and you bring a ball to the beach, that child will kick that ball.
Yeah.
We walk to the woods. So when I say stay in sports, it's stay active. Hello. It's stay active.
Yeah.
I would say stay active.
Yeah,
12 years old, active.
Active. And then, right, so that's deadly advice from you. Now back to that 12-year-old that you wanted to talk to. What would you say to a 12-year-old growing up now?
I'll tell you what I say to my children every day when they get out of school for primary school and up to a certain point in secondary school till they start saying, "Ma, stop, will you?" Everyone's listening, Ma.
Yeah.
There's two things I say to my children, and if you interview them, they tell you. Every day I get out of the car, I'd say, "I love you and be kind."
Yeah.
Every day, I love you and be kind.
Yeah, that's
And even when my son got to like 13, he'd say, "I know," before he say it, I know what you're going to say. And I'd say it. I love you and be kind.
No, it's my
because
biggest
if
thing
everyone
with
could be
MJ as
kind,
well.
it would be a happier, nicer world.
My thing, like MJ, he's smarter than me, so hopefully he has his mammy's looks and intelligence, right? But I always say to him, "Look, buddy, I don't care if you're thick as a ditch as long as you're kind and respectful."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we idolise him, we adore him, but that is the most important thing.
Be kind.
Yeah. And so now, right, to finish up, that's actually a beautiful thing. But to finish up, one positive advice from a mental health coach, a mental health nurse, a teacher, unbelievable athlete. Go, give us that nugget of wisdom.
My biggest thing in life, and especially in the last 9 months, is you never know what somebody is going through. Do not judge. Hurt people will hurt. So instead of attacking people who are attacking, maybe try and help them out and see what's going on.
Yeah.
If I ever have a bit of jip or a bit of back chat or anything from a student or from anybody, like something in my life happens, I just take a breath now and I think, what are they going through?
Yeah.
Like I had road rage at an incident the other day where Mum was going to get out and punch the head off me. And he actually was going to punch the head off me. Like
I picked the wrong woman to get out.
Well, I could have done what you're I could have done my boxer in the car. No, I was driving along. We all stopped, and you know when you have a red light, but it goes to green, and like you're just sitting there. But an old man was at the traffic light, so I thought, well, it's green, but I'm going to let him go. Your man starts blowing the horn behind me, and I mean, I thought he'd fainted on the horn. This man behind me, so I just do my window down and I went like this, you know what? Like there's a man crossing the road, and he got out of the car. And as he walked towards me, I just looked at him and said, "Are you having a bad day?" And I swear it just turned. He just turned and went, "Sorry," and he walked back. I just goes, "Are you having a bad day?" I didn't attack him. I wasn't mean. So for me, like I just said there, don't attack. Just step back and listen to someone who maybe is hurting. Sometimes people are aggressive, and the best saying in life is hurt people hurt. You know, bullies are not happy people.
No, I know that.
Bullies are not happy people. Aggressive people are not happy people. I know it's not for us to take on, but what advice I would give is that always think, what's that person going through before you react. That's kind of what I would say for...
It's an amazing thing, and it's something that I always finish the workshops for MBK on as well, that honestly, we never know what somebody is going through, and that nasty thing that we're about to say, that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So always just trying. It's not easy, and women are far better at it than men, or especially Neanderthal men like myself.
More patience, I think you might like
taking that. Patience. Yeah, well, I can't even spell patience. So, but to take that step back,
take a deep breath,
and go at it, then I think is massively important.
You know,
we're nearly back to where. Hiya, how are you? We're nearly back to where Shelly is going to do a kilometre or two swim, and I'm going to clap her around it. I think, I don't know.
Basil's going to jump in, and then he's going to practice what he preaches.
I can't swim, but I think I will jump in. I think I will jump in.
Up to your waist.
Shelly, I'm going to give you a hug. Thanks a million for that.
That
was lovely.
Thank you so much, and thanks a million for having me on. I'm honoured, and anytime I can help, just give me a shout. And to anybody out there struggling, get in contact. If you don't have my details, text Basil. He'll give you my number openly. And even if it is a 5-minute chat on the phone, or a walk on Cahore Strand or Cortown Gorey, I will go to you and I will do my best to support you, because I think if we can all just reach a hand out there, guys and girls, I just think we'd have a nicer world. We just would have a nicer, easier world. And look, don't be ashamed. Get rid of the stigma, get rid of the shame, and let's start talking about this. Brilliant. If you're not okay, you need to just ask for a bit of help, and there's no shame in it. We all need it sometimes.
It's okay not to be okay at times. And a lovely one I used to always use when I was boxing was broken crayons still colour the same.
There you go. So, that's a beautiful saying.
Do you know what I mean? So, right, my social media is MBK Survival Training. Shelly social media.
Shelly Atkins Diverse Fit.
Shelly Atkins Diverse Fit. You're going to have to check out the Instagram pages to see if I get into this water, because it's fucking perishing. Take care. Bye.